Hello, and welcome to episode 91 of Expertise is Overrated, the podcast that takes the time to answer the questions you didn't know you didn't want the answers to. I'm Sean.
And I'm Vib, and neither of us has any clue what we're talking about.
So, may the Force be with us.
Oh, you actually did try for a serious tone there. Well done.
I tried to be serious. Of course I did. You asked me to.
I enjoyed that. Well, it's the first time we've actually put stage directions in our script. I'm quite proud of it. So no, I'm glad you followed that. Yes, the Force.
Yeah, I don't...
A last-minute alteration to our schedule.
Well, part of that was because I knew we were going to start streaming for the first time. Hello, if you're listening to the recording, we have attempted to stream this through a new tech platform. It's currently not broken, so that's good.
So yes, that means you can watch us while we record live,
yeah.
And it also means that hopefully we should put some video on YouTube.
We should do.
And maybe we can get some shorts sorted once upon a time. That's not a thing to say.
This feels like content designed for shorts because it's an hour long and 45 minutes of that is always absolute nonsense.
It's always us talking shit, yes. It's
just us talking shit and getting lost.
Well, saying that, we have got less funny over time.
We have, and I think we need to, for 2026, on which let's have a moment to vomit.
Happy New Year, everybody. Yes, indeed.
Happy New Year. I hope you had a wonderful break if you had a break. But yeah, let's try and be funnier. Let's try and get back to our roots, which were just being funny, entertaining people, and yelling at each other. Because we stopped doing that as well, and I miss that.
We have. Maybe today we can return to form.
Oh, I think this is going to be bad. So we changed topics. So we were originally going to be discussing Harry Potter. But
no, specifically Alan Rickman, and now Alan Rickman ruined Snape. Yeah. Sizzle moment.
Yeah,
it's coming.
Yeah, we were. But the point is, we were going to be talking about the Harry Potter universe, and that's a really dangerous thing to do on Twitch. So I didn't really want it to be our first foray. Also, we've spoken about this in the context of Andor. We've spoken about this in the context of the Star Wars watch-along that we're doing over for our patrons. Check out our Patreon if you're interested in that. And yeah, we've argued about the Force quite a lot. I think it's fair to say. Like, quite a lot.
Yes,
but always tangentially.
Yes, I think we've been too afraid to get into it properly. I think is probably fair to say.
Yeah, I think that is fair to say.
But here we are.
The central premise that I think I want to make, the central thesis to my argument, is that most people in the Star Wars universe, particularly in the prequels and the sequels, don't understand the Force, including the Jedi Council. Basically.
Okay.
But also that the fandom quite frequently misrepresents the Force, what it is, how it works, and specifically what the term balance means. So we hear bring balance to the Force quite frequently in all three trilogies. And that frequently gets represented stupidly. And I want to educate and fix everyone, basically.
Just that, then? Okay, fine.
I want to fix everything. That's my goal for
You want to fix everything. Okay. Okay. So
there is no such thing. I'll be simple. There is no such thing as the light side of the Force.
Okay. So we're agreed that there is a Force.
We're agreed in the existence of a Force as the narrative concept of space magic, used by space wizards, the Jedi.
And then later by seemingly everybody. So yeah.
Yeah, and then later their counterpart, the space, I guess, bad wizards. Wizards don't really have a magical counterpart, which is
no, they're just wizards.
They're just wizards.
Yeah, you've got the light wizards and you've got the dark wizards. Or the good
That's
wizards
true.
and the bad wizards.
Good
or,
wizards and bad wizards.
Whatever you want to call it. Okay, so we're good that there's a force. You're saying there's no light side of the force, and that, I guess, therefore, by extension, no dark side of the force.
I think calling it the dark side is what is misleading.
Okay.
Because it is clear that there is an element of the force that is corruptive, negative, harmful, and capable of causing harm externally and internally. If there wasn't, Palpatine wouldn't be able to shoot lightning bolts out his fingers.
Yeah, but lightning is just an element of sorts.
Yes, but
if you can move objects with the force, why not move electrons such that you get lightning effectively?
Because that's not what force lightning is.
Oh, okay. Do tell.
Well,
wise expert on force lightning.
But in the canon, isn't the part of the reason why Jedi, generally speaking, and this isn't always true, but generally speaking, part of the reason why Jedi can't use force lightning is because it requires you to channel anger. It's the raw, negative channeled emotion of the wielder that generates the lightning.
I think now you've hit the nail on the head, right? Because if we start to apply logic like that, very quickly things unravel, right? Because you're telling me that a force push is a calm thing to be doing.
It's an expression of will.
Yeah, so is lightning.
But I don't think that's...
Weirdly, why are you now arguing for there being a dark and light side, by the way?
So no. I'm arguing that the negative elements of the force as expressed by dark side users exist, but their counterpart is not a good side of the force that does healing and what have you. Their counterpart is their absence.
God, this is going to be an hour-long debate from you about moral absolutionism, right?
I hope not.
Okay.
Because that would be an odd place for us to end up.
I mean, okay, fine. So is it then an argument to say that what the Jedi are doing are to actively try to repress this darker, more corruptive side of the Force?
I think that's right, and I think in their own way, the Jedi get it wrong, particularly the prequel Jedi, because in pushing down and denying those darker, more harmful emotions, anger, fear, what have you, they don't equip their members with the ability to deal with them. Fundamentally, that's why we see so many Jedi fall.
Oh, but you're talking about falling. See that?
Sorry,
I mean, it doesn't help that I've just started watching Lucifer, which, for the record, pretty good show.
It was a great show.
But, you're talking about falling as though this is now falling from the heavens or falling from the light, the path of the light to a path of darkness.
It's really, really hard because the language around it is absolutely coloured by moral positives and moral negatives. We talk about falls, we talk about redemption, the redemption of Darth Vader, for example, which implies that he was evil and became good again. But I think it's entirely possible to view the Force as an inherently positive thing. Mm-hmm. It's really hard to talk about the Force without calling it a force. An inherently positive concept that can be and simultaneously is corruptive, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. But it's surely the same. Is it though?
What do you mean? Is it? Is
so
it inherently positive?
Could anybody be corrupted by the Force?
Could anybody be corrupted?
Right, because I guess that's the question, right? If you had a paragon of virtue, right? If you had
Luke Skywalker at the end of Episode 6.
I don't know if Luke's necessarily the right person, but yes, for argument's sake, Yeah, exactly. Or even Yoda, I guess, right? I mean, and I think Yoda is probably a case that we should go into, because one imagines he's probably spent a lot of his life not tapping into the dark side. But then he kind of does.
Yeah.
He does like force lightning stuff, right? He can clearly
but there
manage
is,
it.
So
yeah, but
really,
we can come back
frustratingly, there is a light side
Yeah,
equivalent force power.
I'll come on to that later, and why I think that
you're right.
You're right in saying that there probably isn't such a thing as balance when we're talking the light side.
Yeah,
but that's the question, right? So, can the force corrupt somebody, or is it just like in the real world? If something amplifies certain qualities, think of it a bit like the winter mantle of the Dresden verse.
So I think that's actually a really good, a really good lens through which to view it. What the dark side, we see it from Yoda in Empire Strikes Back, right? Luke asks him, "Is the dark side stronger?" Because that's what Vader has told him, and Yoda says, "No, it's not stronger, but it's easier, it's faster." So, and that's what the Winter Mantle is. The Winter Mantle essentially enables Harry Dresden in the Dresden Files to achieve his peak, and in some cases surpass his peak very, very quickly.
Yeah.
But
it's a common trope I find in fantasy, right? Because sort of the Winter Mantle in Dresden seems to do a similar thing. The dark side of the force does something. Dark magic in many settings seems to do a similar thing, right? I think you get the sense in Harry Potter. I mean, even though we were going to talk about it on Twitch.
No, but you're right. The physical corruption of Voldemort through the use of dark magic.
Exactly, and the sort of idea that some of these dark spells, as it were, in a lot of these situations are just quite easy to use and do horrible things, right?
Well, that's the conversation that you and I had about Avada Kedavra a very long time ago.
Yeah.
But it doesn't appear to be a particularly complicated spell.
Yeah, exactly.
You just point your wand, shoot the words, and green light comes out.
It's just channeling an emotion, which the dark side of the force, should it exist, therefore, in this fictional universe we're talking about, that's what we're dealing with here.
Yeah, but the point I think that we should focus on is that the emotions that one channels when using the dark side of the force are internally harmful emotions. Anger is a harmful emotion. Fear is a harmful emotion. Hate is a harmful emotion. So,
are you talking like generally here, or specifically in the Star Wars universe?
Giving into those emotions is harmful. Like anger, but this is where I'm coming to, right? So anger is a harmful emotion if you can't deal with it. If you can deal with it, it's an emotion that you can channel and use. But giving into it, which is what the dark side users do, is not dealing with it. It's not managing it. It's not controlling it. But equally, pretending you don't have it is harmful. We have to recognize the fact that we have these emotions within ourselves and cope with the fact that we have these emotions within ourselves. That's not what the Jedi do. And that's why Anakin ultimately has the end that he has in episode 3, because he's doesn't have the tools to deal with them.
Well, the entirety of Anakin's story arc is just a complete and utter absence of mental health services.
Yeah.
At its most basic, right?
Yeah. Combined with a failure of religious dogma.
Yeah. But this is the thing about I think we're equating the Jedi and the light side, which I think we should come back to.
Which we should not do.
It's not. Yeah, it's not right. But I guess if we're saying that the dark side is, are you saying the dark side is inherently an emotional interpretation of the Force, or only certain emotions, as in the bad emotions, as it were? As in, is happiness also something that is the dark side? Because happiness can lead you astray, and before you know it,
it's difficult, isn't it? Because
is it rational versus irrational? Is that what we're talking about in terms of balance?
I think it's control and acceptance versus lack of control and denial, basically.
With acceptance, yeah. Okay. Sorry, I'm thinking like the Jedi. Okay, I could kind of see that, but that's That makes the light side really hard to define, right?
But I don't think it exists. I think that
Well, we know from the Clone Wars that it does exist, right? There are two individuals, one light, one dark, and Anakin controls them both.
Well, is it not that there are three individuals?
Well, yeah, there is also the father or whatever.
There's the father who is Balance.
Who is Balance, but then gets murdered, I believe.
By the dark side. So even if there is a dark side, and I'd sort of dispute the conception of light side versus dark side and the father as Balance. I'm not convinced by that, although I accept the Mortis gods exist as an arc and are being brought back in Ahsoka, I think. I haven't finished Ahsoka, but as I understand it, that's a plotline in Ahsoka. I still think that the conception of Balance being there being an equal amount of light and dark is proved wrong by the Mortis gods arc. Because in striving for a balance between light and dark, the ultimate consequence is that the son or the brother kills everyone. And then is himself struck down by Anakin. But the son kills the light side and the son kills the father.
He doesn't kill the light side, does he?
He kills the sister and he kills the father. I
thought it ends with Anakin sort of controlling them both, like keeping them both in check somehow.
I think he kills the sister.
We need to clearly rewatch this.
The sister might come back. The sister might come back. But the point of the Mortis Gods arc for me is to highlight that, and this might be a separate question, to highlight that Balance is not there being an equal number or an equal power of light side and dark side users. Because when that happens...
Yeah, but that's the thing. I think users are irrelevant, right? They have to be relevant. Irrelevant, yes.
Yeah. I think that clearly has to be true.
They have to be irrelevant, and also the number of dark side Force users has to be clearly much higher than 2.
But this is where we need to differentiate between the dark side Force users and the Sith. Because the Sith are not the only dark side Force users. The Night Sisters on Dathomir are dark side users, I'm fairly sure. In the time of the Clone Wars, you have...
Yeah, this is true.
Savage Opress, Darth Maul, Dooku, Ventress...
no, you're right.
Sidious,
I'm conflating the two concepts again.
Using the dark side.
There's effectively there's the religion, and then there's the actual.
And this is another part of the complication, because we equate light side with Jedi dogma, but the Jedi are just one expression of one interpretation of the light side, filtered through tens of thousands of years of interpretation. So when you get to Yoda and Windu saying he will not be trained, he's too old, that's because they're applying the dogma of 10,000 years of religious belief, which is what Jedi is. It's a religion.
Yeah. But then coming down on the fact that the Force by its very nature is balanced.
and that might actually be the answer.
Because it's just a Force.
The existence, and I think that's kind of Qui-Gon's take on the living Force. The Force just exists. It's just a thing. It's a semi-sentient concept that exists within the universe that is, on its own, exists in balance. And it's when Force users interact with the Force that the Force is pulled out of balance. If you use the Force for your own ends...
But the Force doesn't change. Right, I think this is probably the concept, right? That no matter what users do, the Force never changes.
You reckon?
Because why would it? Right? It's just a reservoir.
But it's...
right? If I use a stone and turn it into a house, it's still stone, right? Over time, someone can knock the house down, turn it back into stone. Not quite, but you know what I'm trying to get at here.
I get
the Force is just a pool. Like it's like energy in the universe, right?
But we're told that it's an energy field created by all living things.
Yeah, created by all living things, but not by their collective good or bad.
Let's say for the sake of argument, that you're right, that the Force just exists and at rest is at balance, would it not be the case, potentially, that powerful users of the Force would have a corruptive influence on the Force around them? So if I'm Sidious and I'm constantly tapping into the negative
No, I
aspects
don't think so.
of the Force.
I think it's the Force interacting with the user that creates whatever outcome the user is desiring, right? I don't think the Force is inherently good or bad or light or dark. I think the Force is just the Force. Same way, therefore, that the bolt of lightning that Sidious shoots at Yoda can be bounced back as the same or different kind of energy. It's not, the Force hasn't changed. It's just being used and redirected, I think. I mean, I can offer you no proof, naturally, because we can't say it. But that's sort of where I come down on this. I think it's just an existing force, an existing energy source. Call it dark energy. Maybe it already exists around us. Who knows?
We're way off the deep end of proof at this point. Don't worry about that. How do you explain Force ghosts in that? Because only the Jedi get them.
One could argue at the
Jedi.
end of Episode 9, the Sith are quite good at doing Force ghosts themselves. It's a different interpretation, but there's a hell of a lot of Sith present at the thing, even though they're all dead.
I have to confess, I've only seen Episode 9 once.
Yeah, same. But I still remember that scene because it was bullshit.
I remember I am all the Sith and I am all the Jedi.
And
I think,
and again, it could be the same sort of explanation as to why it's a vast majority. Well, the use of Force lightning, for example, is vastly skewed towards dark side users because you need to tap into a particular emotion.
Yeah,
I would argue, therefore, that someone like Windu maybe could well do it. Same thing with Force Ghosts could be the other thing, right? It's because Ghosts. Well, actually, the idea of Force Ghosts is interesting, and first of all, that comes from a Grey Jedi originally, so let's not forget that. As in someone who's found harmony between the two.
Are we calling Liam? Sorry, are we calling Qui-Gon Jinn?
Liam Neeson, definitely. Yes.
Are we calling Liam Neeson a Grey Jedi? I don't know.
Of course, he's a Grey Jedi. Of course, he's the pinnacle of the Grey Jedi.
I don't think he is. I think he's the pinnacle of a Jedi.
I disagree.
I think Qui-Gon is what a Jedi should be.
Yeah, but that's a different argument. I think he's a Grey Jedi, and all Jedi should be that. The point is, but if your creed, right? Shut up and let me talk.
Sorry,
haven't said that in a while. There we go. 2026, we're back.
I absolutely earned that as well.
The point is, right? If you're genuinely a Jedi and you believe that things like attachment and emotion are bad, then the idea of Force ghosts is inherently against your creed because you're not able to let go. You're attached to that world that you left. Or equally, if you're someone trying to commune with a Force ghost, you're attached to that person. It's not a part of the Jedi philosophy. So therefore, it has to use the dark side of the Force. And I keep using quotation marks because I can see myself. Yeah, I know that is a bit of a non sequitur. I'll grant you that. I can make that work.
I think we have to define what we mean by Grey Jedi, because I think it's a KOTOR concept originally, which is a 2002 video game. Probably not. Probably more like 2009. But never mind. It's an old video game.
Could be like early noughties. I don't know. Looks like it could be early noughties. Looks like it could be 90s.
Well, no, it's running on a D&D 3.5 engine. Oh, it's got to be 2005-ish, I think. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
Around the time of the prequels, but a bit after the prequels, actually.
It's post-prequels, but not long post. And there is a character in that who is a Grey Jedi. That's their description in the game is Grey Jedi. And the point is that they are able to use elements of the Force from both the light side path and the dark side path, right? So they can have but they can't go as far down the path,
of course,
as either a true Jedi or a true Sith.
Yeah. No, for a game that makes total sense, right?
And for a game that makes total sense, because the game has a morality track that you can move up and down, right? And your character, Revan, sorry, that's a spoiler.
Hardly.
It's an enormous spoiler for the game, but the game's 20 years old, so I think it's fine. Your character is the only character that moves along the track, and everyone else has fixed alignments. But the best way to play as Revan is to stick in the middle, because then you get access to most of the best Force powers from both sides, which has led to this idea that Grey Jedi are the best. But Grey Jedi, I don't think that's what... I don't think that it's fair to call Qui-Gon Jinn a Grey Jedi.
It may be, but the reason I would... Yeah, go on, sorry.
I think he's almost an enlightened Force user rather than a Grey Jedi. Because I don't think you ever see him tap into the dark side of the Force.
No, but I also don't necessarily mean that's...
your point about becoming a Force ghost, which I think I'll concede. That's probably something that we can give.
Well, we don't see Qui-Gon do all that. Surely, anyway.
We see mind tricks. The vast majority of his Force use is mind tricks.
But the thing is, his Force use that we see,
tricks at that.
Which I mean, remember, it's mind control, which famously you're very anti. You think that that's like the most evil expression of any kind of magic.
Yeah, it's pretty poor.
So
pretty poor showing.
That's instantly dark side.
But he's using it against a slaver, so maybe I can let it go.
Oh goodness, that's not legal advice. But the thing with Qui-Gon, the thing with Qui-Gon is that he's morally interesting. He's not interesting in terms of what he does on the battlefield. I mean, he is because he looks badass doing it. But he's the first Jedi. Well, he's the first Jedi we actually meet in real terms, aside from I guess Yoda. But you don't see all that much of a Yoda in any meaningful way. And Obi-Wan, Ben. Yeah, Ben.
Well, Ben is the first Jedi.
Ben is the first actual Jedi. He's a bit loopy. But Qui-Gon, we get to spend a lot of time with him. We see his mind quite a lot, right? And it's very clear that he essentially just thinks that the Jedi Order and the Jedi religion is kind of bullshit, right? He doesn't quite go as far as saying it, but he objects to so many of the dogma, so much of the dogma that exists.
Yeah,
and that's what makes him Grey to me. Is that I think he acknowledges that people do have attachments and people do have emotions, and these are not things you should just completely switch off.
But I think the point. Let's take no attachment as a simple example, and we can view it through the lens of Anakin, right? The point of no attachment is so that you don't end up doing what Anakin did.
Yeah, but that's the creed, but it's bullshit.
But the problem is the interpretation through 10,000 years of dogma, because the basic principle of it's not don't form attachments. It's
don't succumb to your emotions. I know.
Don't succumb to attachment.
But so my thought experiment here is, right, imagine that Anakin doesn't die at the end of
Jedi?
Jedi, thank you.
Yeah.
With 9 films, honestly, and they all have they all have revenge or Jedi in them somewhere. At the end of episode 6, imagine that he doesn't actually die, right? So here's now a man whose soul has been redeemed, shall we say, who is ostensibly a light side Jedi. You're saying that when push comes to shove and he's in a one-on-one fight, he isn't going to, use a bit of anger to get out that Darth Vader swing in a fight. I think he absolutely would.
This is really, really interesting, though, because
something swinging Mace Windu.
Luke wins the fight when he's come on to Mace Windu because he kind of breaks everything because he's annoying.
Because he's Sam Jackson, yeah.
Because he's Sam Jackson. And Sam Jackson, I think, has the same clause in his contract that The Rock does. Luke wins the fight against Vader in episode 6 by giving in to his anger.
He cuts off his hand by doing that. Yeah, true.
He just does. He wins the fight by giving in to his anger. It's like a really small thing, but Vader cracks a joke about Leia. I don't quite exactly remember what it is because it's a very long time since I watched Jedi. And then Luke just starts wailing on him.
Yeah.
Clearly furious and drives into the ground, all of that. He wins the fight by giving into his anger.
Yeah, absolutely.
But he then recognizes the failure when the Emperor says to him, strike him down and take his place, or whatever the line is. And Luke, at that point, throws his lightsaber away and says, I'm a Jedi like my father before me.
Except that his father, of course, famously kills the person in that situation. Chops his head off with 2 lightsabers.
Yeah, all right. Luke is a romanticized idea of the Jedi that his father was.
He wasn't there.
But that's also his attempt to redeem his father. That's him giving his father a chance at redemption by doing that.
But, I mean, yeah, I 100% agree. And actually, I think that Anakin Skywalker, whom you only really see... Because I think in episode 2, there's not enough of... He's not old enough yet to sort of be meaningful, I think. But we see that moment where he snaps, right, with the Sand People. And I think at that point, if you just have some good counseling, if Obi-Wan just sits him down and goes, I get it, we've all been there. Especially Obi-Wan, in later times, has this whole relationship thing that, is never talked about in the films. I think then you could get an Anakin Skywalker. And I think you do see that Anakin Skywalker in Clone Wars, the animated series, quite a lot, where he is kind of an emotional guy, right? And he uses that to his advantage a lot. And it's just, if you can keep him on that path, as you're sort of saying, that if you keep him on that KOTOR sort of middle sweet spot path, he would be a balanced Jedi, as it were.
You see it at the start of episode 3 as well, when Obi-Wan is flung across the bridge of the invisible hand and breaks his back and is then fine 5 minutes later. And that drives Anakin to a rage, and then he absolutely dog walks.
Yeah.
Dooku.
And this is what really pisses me off.
Going, and that's the problem with Anakin.
And this is what pisses me off about Windu in particular, because Windu is, I think, exactly that guy, right? Because he's got his own special lightsaber fighting technique that sort of taps into this dark side concept. As we're saying, it's probably not a dark side thing, but yeah, exactly.
So for people who are not familiar with the intricacies of deep Star Wars form lore,
hey, we're sorry that you've come all this way.
How did you get this far? But no, so what Windu is able to do is essentially turn an opponent's dark side power against them, so he gets stronger as they get stronger.
It's never fully explained because it doesn't actually make any sense, but
it's explained a little bit in a couple of novels, but those are no longer canon.
It's essentially them saying he uses the dark side without using the dark side, but he just uses the dark side.
It's characterized as an incredibly dangerous thing to do because you have to flirt with the dark side to do it. You have to be able to kind of immerse yourself in the dark side without tapping into it. I don't know.
And Anakin could be that guy. But the point is, right, that the reason that works for Mace Windu, and this is why Sam Jackson was such a good cast, because you can see he's a super emotional fighter, right?
Yeah.
And that's just the thing. I think if you're using the Force in that way, as in you're channeling it through some sort of emotion to affect an outcome that you're trying to achieve, that's just you using the Force. If you go off the deep end and become a mass murderer, as in by slaying an entire temple's worth of younglings or killing sand people, then you've crossed over. But then you're just a maniac. You're a psychopath, right? That's not a dark side, light side of the Force thing. The Force enables you to do whatever you want. Yeah. It's how you use it, right?
And I think in a lot of these circumstances, the person who's most at fault is kind of Yoda.
Oh, I mean,
so let's take the only, you referenced it earlier, Anakin is a man who over the course of 3 films is crying out for any kind of mental health support at all. Yoda is the only person that we ever see giving Anakin any kind of real mental health support in that sort of meditation scene. And what Yoda says to Anakin makes sense to Yoda because Yoda's 900 fucking years old. He's do not mourn those who join with the Force, rejoice for them, for whatever the phrase is. When Anakin's basically going, my wife's gonna die and I don't want that to happen. What Anakin needs there is someone, Obi-Wan, to say to him, yeah, that would be really shit. We should try and
Yeah, we'll go for a couple of
we
beers.
should do a lot of stuff to try and make sure that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
But we have to recognize there are things that we cannot control. That's the bit of the puzzle that Anakin is missing.
Because I agree with you, and I think Yoda's absolutely right. But as you say, he speaks with the wisdom of 900 years, right? We should have just said, no, this is going to be shit. It's going to suck.
Yeah.
But actually, you'll come to realize that.
And you have a support structure here when you need it that will help you.
Yeah.
Obviously,
and feel
literally everyone on Coruscant knows that you're talking about Padme.
Yes.
By the way, we're all in on that. You probably shouldn't have done
all
that.
70 quadrillion people, no. No, but I think you're absolutely right. And yeah, if they had just said, listen, mate, having emotions is absolutely fine. It's legitimate. And, you're going to feel rough the same way that sometimes you feel really good and really happy, right? But don't just be a slave to those emotions and just go nuts. or be angry, but, talk to people as opposed to just going out and killing children, it's...
Yeah, but that's the thing. It's be angry is exactly the right way to describe it. You're going to be angry. If it happens, if Obi-Wan dies, if Padme dies, you're going to be angry because that's the natural response. When that happens, go and sit and meditate. Go and do something that makes you happy. Go and do whatever. I don't know. I'm not a grief counselor, but go and recognize that you're angry and find healthy ways to deal with it that aren't overthrowing a republic that has stood for 10,000 years.
And then to top it off, essentially never meet your kids,
Yeah, well, exactly.
Father of the Year goes to Anakin Skywalker for sure.
Yeah,
but so okay, I think a good versus bad in terms of the Force, therefore, probably not a thing, or dark versus light. That's not to say that there isn't good and bad in the Star Wars universe.
The only question I have in relation to that is, how do you get places of light side or dark side energy? So the butthole on Luke's planet in Last Jedi, for example, or the tunnel in Empire, or the Valley of the Jedi.
But to me, that's probably just entities that are there that in some way amplify a certain emotion or whatever. I find it kind of hard to figure out what the light side would feel like, and that's not because I'm a psychopath. Maybe, hopefully,
peace, maybe.
Yeah, peace and tranquility, perhaps, right? And I think that's just it's the same for us, right? If you go to certain places, it evokes certain feelings and emotions, and that's not because the place is inherently any different, right? It's still just material, right? It's physics. So I think it's just an interpretation of it comes by, and then probably a bit of a sort of herd mentality thing, right? If one guy says, "Oh, don't you sense all the light side here?" and I was like, "Oh yeah, of course I do."
I suppose you could also
I don't fucking sense it at all, but yeah, sure, I'll say yes.
I don't know if you've ever been to Glencoe in the Highlands. It doesn't really matter.
No, I think is the answer.
It's a place where a terrible massacre happened in the 17th or 18th century, I think. And it's a place that feels weird because it's always misty. It's always damp. It always feels somber. But I don't know how much of that is the fact that everyone who's ever that I know the history, and the fact that everyone that I know who's ever been to Glencoe says, "Oh, it feels weird."
Yeah.
Do you not think it feels weird there? In exactly the same way that if you go to Thailand or wherever and you go to one of the popular tourist waterfalls or whatever, and everyone's like, "Oh, it's so peaceful."
Yeah, exactly.
And then you go there and it is peaceful. The part of it is priming.
So I think that would be my explanation of what you're saying, that these sort of pockets of light and dark energy. I think it's just.
And I guess if you get a reservoir or a natural pooling of the Force as a sort of amplifier of whatever you bring in, if you're then primed to take in fear or glee or whatever it is, then the Force is going to amplify that if you're Force sensitive. So take the tunnel, and if
but the thing is, both sides, as it were, kind of sense both sides. If you know what I mean.
Yeah. But if you take the tunnel in Empire that Luke goes through, before he goes through that, he's told that it's a place that's strong in the dark side, but he's aware of it before he's told that, because it is a natural nexus for magical energy.
But he's aware of something.
Yeah, that's my point.
He's aware of something, but Yoda will know, right? Or at least have some sort of idea. Yoda primes him. I think Yoda knows that it's some sort of mental test for Luke or whatever's going to happen in there. So he says, "Oh, that's rife with the dark side." Perhaps as a way to sort of say, "This is a battle that really matters, or you will fall to this mythical dark side place." I also find it so strange that it is such a binary switch very often. So we only ever see one example of someone going from the dark side to the light side, right?
Not true.
Yeah, I guess in some of the animated series you see some.
We see Kylo Ren as well.
Does he ever start on the dark side? There's a whole separate debate.
Pretty dark side when he murders that guy at the start of Force
But I mean,
Awakens.
okay, but the sequels.
He's a Nazi figurehead, man.
Yeah, that's a good point. But in the sequels, essentially all this just comes into two people staring at each other, and somehow that's meant to reflect duality. Anyway, that's a separate issue.
I almost feel like we have to have this debate again after watching the sequels.
I think we do.
Just we're not allowed to reference anything that happens outside the sequels.
Yeah. So case study of the sequels, and we'll revisit this debate. But the point is, it's binary even then, right? As in, once Kylo Ren switches back or Anakin switches back, everyone's like, "Oh yeah, this guy's now forever good," right? Yeah. And it's sort of like when Anakin falls, and it's like, "Oh my god, he's forever evil." Like, what is that about? Why is there no mention of a spectrum? And maybe it's because it's come from it's a film from the 60s. Maybe that's probably why. But
they hadn't invented spectrum. But also because everything that we see is through the lens of Jedi dogma.
Yes.
Right. So for the Jedi, you either are a Jedi, or you're a lay person, or you're a Sith. Right. And if you're Force sensitive, you can't be in the middle. So you're either a Jedi or you're a Sith. But only a Sith deals in absolute.
See, we should have really watched A New Hope, because I really want to see how these arguments interact with Ben Kenobi explaining everything. But hey, that ship sailed. Now we're here now. Let's do a 2-hour watch along of A New Hope right now, and then we'll revisit this debate.
That would be absolutely mental. I love it.
Yeah, so
How
that's...
do you interact with Ben Kenobi, though? That's a good question, because I can't remember 100% what he says.
I don't think he necessarily says, "Oh, there's a light and a dark side." I think he just says, "The Force is the Force," and it's great. You know,
the Force is a Jedi's ally. It guides his actions. It's broadly Ben Kenobi's.
Kind of, yes. But he also refers to Anakin as being... He refers to Anakin as being dead, which I think is quite interesting.
Yes, because in Kenobi... I know this is post hoc, but in Kenobi, Vader says to Obi-Wan, "You didn't kill Anakin Skywalker. I did.
Yeah.
I'm not your failure. You didn't kill me. I killed Anakin. I did." And I think that compartmentalization is really necessary for Ben's mental health.
Yeah, probably, actually.
To basically say the person that Darth Vader is now is not my friend, is not my brother. My brother is dead, and there's like essentially like an evil parasite living in his body.
Yeah, that's true. But then you have to think about someone like Darth Maul.
Yeah.
I was really thinking about that because, it was like, the last fight Kenobi really has is, or one of the greatest duels he has is against Maul. Because Maul's an interesting one, right? Because he's a Darth, so ostensibly a Sith. Although how that exactly works, given that there can only apparently ever be 2 Sith, and there's seemingly never only just 2, because he's always running around when Sidious and Dooku are running around. But so he's a dark side user, right, as it were.
Yeah.
So he demonstrates, like a lot of the sisters that you mentioned, demonstrates positive emotions and positive thinking at times, right? His he cares for his brother very greatly, for example.
And I think Dooku is a good example of this as well, right? Dooku is a Sith. He's clearly a Sith. He has the title of Darth. He's Palpatine's apprentice. But he's not...
Well, he's grey, except that he's
Sith,
just on the other
he?
side of the line to Qui-Gon, I think.
He's well, I'm not sure I agree with that. Although I think I have previously called him the Sith equivalent of Qui-Gon.
Yeah, Dooku is just he's a little bit too much. The means justify the ends.
I think that is actually the answer. I think Dooku is he's also apparently, if you watch Tales of the Jedi or Tales of the Sith, like a horrific human supremacist.
Yeah, but that's weirdly it. Like his motivation is not quite as self-centered, seemingly, as the other Sith that you see, I find.
Yeah, well, if you think about his Sith name, right, his motivation is leadership, effectively.
Yeah.
Right, he genuinely believes that with him at the helm, the world will be a better place for everyone. He's not Sidious, who wants to live forever in an empire of hate and fear.
Yeah, exactly.
The problem is that Dooku is absolutely willing to do anything to get to that aim. But I think what's really telling about Dooku, and I assume part of this is because Christopher Lee refused to wear contact lenses, is that his eyes never change.
Yeah.
Right, I mean, Anakin's eyes change in the temple. Sidious's eyes change, like, instantaneously.
Yeah, but he has a way of controlling it, which is quite neat.
Yeah, he's got...
Unless he just wears contacts.
Force glamour.
They then pops out when he gets angry.
I think in the novelization of Revenge of the Sith, he has a force glamour.
Yeah.
As part of his, like, dark side shrouding.
So yeah, force powers are a law unto themselves, right? As discussed. There seem to be some that are aligned with certain ends of the spectrum.
So in the Jedi Academy game, the sequel to Jedi Knight and Jedi Outcast, they break down into light side, neutral, and dark side. And the neutral ones are like push, pull, speed, jump. I think mind trick.
Yeah, and the thing is, this is just, teachers imposing a curriculum, right? Because they're like, we think these things are bad. So you see the same exact thing in Harry Potter, right? It's like, we can't possibly teach you about these spells.
Yeah.
And then, of course, people get curious and, in a very badly contained manner, learn all sorts of horrible things, like how to wipe your parents' memories and just apparently never go and restore that. Oops.
Not talking about Harry Potter, but holy shit.
Yeah, okay, so balance then. I'm fairly convinced that there is balance because it's immutable. It cannot be unbalanced, no matter what people want to say.
Is the problem in the prequels just that? Two things. One, Sidious is unbelievably powerful, just through operation of the rule of two. Over
but that doesn't really work because he's not. It doesn't strike me as more powerful than Yoda.
But Sidious's great power is masking his own existence, right? So he's able to be in a room with half the council, and them not know that he's Sidious, and all of that.
I think you give him a bit too much credit. I actually think that the Jedi, in particular Yoda, I think we're really painting Yoda in a bad light here, have spent so much time trying to actively whitewash Jediism.
Yeah.
I think he spent so much time ignoring the dark side because you couldn't possibly engage with it that
The Sith have been extant for a
Exactly,
millennia.
right? Exactly. It's like, oh, we don't have a budget problem. We have a fucking massive budget problem. Just saying it.
Yeah, no, it's fine. There is no war in Bassi or whatever it is.
But anyway, so what was your argument going to be there? So Sidious is immensely powerful. Okay.
Sidious is immensely powerful, such that he's narratively powerful, such that he's able to mask his own existence until the right moment, and also the Jedi that we see are the result of 10,000 years of unquestioned doctrine and dogma.
Yes.
Basically, so it's essentially hubris.
But again, but you're talking about the religion now, I think, right?
I am talking about the religion now. I'm not talking about balance between the two sides. I'm talking about the religious conflict between the Sith and the Jedi. So the Jedi talk about bringing balance to the Force, and what they mean by that is the dark side of the Force ceasing to cloud everything. But the reason the dark side of the Force clouds everything is because Sidious is so ludicrously powerful. And part of the reason why Sidious is so ludicrously powerful is that the Jedi are so hubristic that they haven't been able to identify that everything is being manipulated by a Sith Lord. And even when presented by the existence of the Sith by Qui-Gon, I do not think the Sith could have returned without us knowing it.
Yeah.
You've been faced with evidence. Entertain for a moment the possibility that you're wrong.
Please, what church would do that?
But this is my point. This is my point. I think.
Yeah, no, I think the religion versus the actual thing is two different things, right? I mean, it's rare to be arguing about what are effectively religious concepts when the thing that they believe in is actually real, right?
That is unusual.
That is unusual. I'll propose one final
measurable, let's say, rather than real.
Yes, measurable. Yeah. But my favorite argument in terms of the numbers never making sense, right? I mean, we picture this. I mean, it's by its own admission, it takes place in a galaxy, right? Which is therefore part of presumably a universe. So it's again this thing of scale, which humans are notoriously bad at, right? What you're describing, the Jedi versus the Sith, is happening literally almost within sight, actually within sight of each other, right? The palace of the Jedi, or the Temple of the Jedi, and the Senate building are like within view of each other. That's the scale at which this is occurring. If you scale that up to, even the cosmic sort of levels of force usage that are happening in that small vicinity, I think are a drop in the ocean to what happens in the universe, right? This is why I come back to the Force. The Force is just the Force. It just exists, and there are certain people who manipulate it on a very small scale in very localized areas.
I think that's a fair argument, to be honest. I think this either it exists only in that galaxy.
That's possible, yeah.
Which is possible given the scale of intergalactic space.
And sound also exists there in space, so
clearly different. It's a galaxy where, it's a galaxy where the rules don't make sense. Maybe that's the only galaxy in which midichlorians developed. We may never know.
Bad, Sean. We nearly made it an hour without mentioning this fucking nightmare.
It would explain it, though. It would be a simple explanation. It's a bad explanation, but it would for people who are not watching the video. He's just thrown his glasses on the desk. I hope they broke.
Why did you mention midichlorians? It's a half-hearted attempt by George Lucas to try and make the balance thing make sense.
Yeah, I mean that is what midichlorians are.
What he should have said is, "Oh, this guy's got red midichlorians, and this guy's got blue midichlorians." Oh,
he's red, but we got to him early.
Exactly. Yeah, we can make them blue again. Oh, this got political really quickly, unintentionally.
Make midichlorians blue again. I love it.
There you go. So that's our new slogan for 2026.
To come off midichlorians because they're dumb as fuck. I think your point is well made. If the Force exists universally, then what happens between Yoda and Sidious
surely doesn't matter, right?
In the Senate cannot matter.
Yeah.
Just in terms of scale, it cannot matter.
Yeah. And this is why I think the animated series does an interesting job of introducing certain characters that are important here. I'm trying to think. What was that show with the big force sensitive thing on a planet?
The Zilla Beast? No.
Thank you, Alexa.
I don't know.
I can't remember, but there was one which is just this like really ancient entity that just uses the Force. I must at one point just write down all these random things because the Star Wars universe now has got quite expansive. It's hard to keep track.
I guess there's a lot still to unpack in relation to the Force. So, how much does it do? Does it have a natural propensity or alignment? Is it possible to be corrupted away from the dark side? If we accept the term corrupted is imperfect and the term dark side is imperfect, does the light side have an equally corruptive influence to the dark side? Because the Jedi are always a fear of falling.
But this is always that. Yeah, this is always that thing, right? Is there? Well, redemption is the only way, right? You can only the only corruption that exists is if you are fallen, as it were. It's the same trope that you see in Christianity, right? Your only risk is of falling, and if you fall and you ask for forgiveness, which is a form of redemption. There is no sort of. It seems it really starts. It starts on the light side of the spectrum, as it were, right? That's sort of the idea. As in, you're not born with sin.
I know you.
You are born with sin. I can't remember.
We are. It kind of depends on your doctrine.
It feels unreasonable to suggest that babies
we're
have
baptized.
got massive sinners.
That's why the crucifixion happened. But no, I think you're right, except for. Well, no, I don't think you're right about religion. I think you're right about the Force. Except
the point is, it's not the Force though. It just isn't the Force. It's people being people, and they're using the Force as an excuse.
Except for Kylo Ren saying he feels the pull of the light in.
Yeah, but he's being dramatic and romantic.
But is that just what it is? Is it actually that what Kylo Ren is doing is going, I wish I wasn't such a bad guy?
I think so. I think Kylo Ren is just having a sort of a teenage phase, as it were.
I think that's right.
Right, it's his first experience of hormones on a big scale, and he's confused as fuck. And again, he has no father figure. Yeah, exactly. I mean, he's just got no father figure to guide him, or any parental figure to guide him. And yeah, it's a sign that he's not that far gone, that he can instinctively realize, oh, I'm headed down the path, or I'm on a path that's not good. I feel like something should pull me back. But again, this is just the Force is just layered on top of this, right? You could take the Force out of Star Wars and you could essentially get the same story just without the really fast lightsaber battles. And well, actually, interestingly enough, the lightsaber battles were faster when it was just Ewan McGregor and the guy doing Darth Maul, right? They were actually slowed down for the film, which I always thought was funny. So that's the thing. You take the Force out and they fight faster. They just don't Force push each other around. They literally just throw each other. Right? The Force is just there.
The things that we see the Force do in the original trilogy are really comparatively minor, but have enormous consequence. Basically, the destruction of the Death Star is the main thing. And actually, it doesn't need to be the Force. It could just be Luke trusting his aim rather than the aim of a computer.
Yeah, but I think him trusting in the Force to guide him is it's just his instincts, right? And I think that's totally legitimate.
It's the same thing.
And this is for me just it. The Force exists. It doesn't corrupt. It doesn't do anything. It's just something you can tap into if you're so inclined. The same way as, Harry Dresden knows spells that can end people's lives. He chooses not to use them. But him knowing those spells doesn't inherently make him a bad guy, necessarily, right? As an example.
It's just complicated because dark magic in Harry Dresden is inherently corruptive.
Yes, but okay, true, but that's not using it. But it's not. It doesn't mean to say he doesn't know how to use it. For example,
yeah. And part of that, it might be that when you start giving into your emotions, it becomes easier and easier to give into your emotions.
And that, I think, is what the Force in the Star Wars, the Skywalker saga is really trying to tell us, right? Is that if you're a slave to your own emotions and you never hold yourself accountable for anything, shit is going to happen, right? Really bad shit.
Yeah, I think that might be right.
We've nailed it, folks. First one of the year, and I've convinced Sean that the Force is in fact balanced. Wow, who knew? I thought I was going to come into this completely agreeing with you that it's not balanced at all, but I think it just is imbalanced because it can't be unbalanced.
Well, I wasn't arguing that it's not balanced. I think I was arguing that the Jedi conception of balance was wrong.
Well, yeah, but I think that's not even a debate. That's just true.
Okay.
No, you're absolutely spot on with that. I think the Jedi interpretation of things is just so far off and unhelpful and led to some
bad shit.
I mean, the death of an entire planet, essentially. And then a couple more in episode 7.
Quite like a whole system.
Yeah. Well, no one seems to care about that one so much.
Brushed under the rug.
Yeah, that's because one of those was Coruscant.
No, it was the Hosnian system.
That was it.
Because they moved the New Republic headquarters off Coruscant, I think. But we don't even know. We don't know who died. It's so bad.
It's so bad. It's just like, oh yeah, this happened now. Okay, good.
We'll get there in a few months when we watch Force
And then, spoiler alert, Han dies, and everyone's like, oh my god.
This one guy.
Anyway, I feel like we glossed over my immense pearl of wisdom there. It happens so rarely on this show.
Yeah, no, bring us to a close with that. What was your pearl of wisdom?
I've said it now, so I'm just going to thank everybody for listening. Thank you for listening. Welcome to 2026. We will endeavour to be much more regular than we have been. This is a solemn vow that we both swear here. Sean is looking very confused. I swear it, at least.
I'm going to try.
We're going to swear to try to be more regular. But anyway, hopefully you'll hear from us soon. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of Expertise is Overrated. No doubt we've said some things that were either objectively wrong or downright offensive. As ever, feel free to let us know, rate the podcast wherever you can, check out our Patreon for bonus content, and come chat to us on our Discord.
If you're lucky, we might just argue with you in one of our upcoming episodes. And if you're really lucky, we might call you an idiot. Come back next time for some more absolute nonsense.